All right, welcome back, baseball fans, to this eliminating the Las Vegas expansion team, who had a very curious season. This team was a wild card team a year ago with a record around 500 in a strange division, the Mountain Time Zone division, where everybody's an expansion team. Statistically, they came back and were about the same, but it was about losing close games and making mistakes. And they go from a 2021 team to a 16 and 23 team. If you watched that last series against Colorado, you saw them down 0-3, rally to win 4 straight, and lose a heartbreaker in the 8th tie-breaking game. It's been a microcosm of the season. Just not quite good enough. This is just not quite talented enough lineup to compete against the rest of the teams in the league. How could it be? They're getting the back end of the roster fills, the unprotected players from other organizations that are just left out there. Knowing that, they went out and said, let's go get defensive players. They went out in the offseason, got Ed Brinkman, they got Aurelio Rodriguez, they have Ken Berry, they went and got Mike Anderson, assembled the best defense money can buy, which doesn't buy a lot apparently. Mike Anderson had a nice year, hitting 307. Wes Parker, they got because the Dodgers were moving Steve Garvey to first base, so Vegas said, send your Gold Glove caliber first baseman to us, switch hitter, hit 302. Tommy Davis has a really awesome card, but only hit 280 with it. It's a 320 card. The best hitter on this team hit 280. Probably needs to hit like 350 for this team to go anywhere. And you see just general mediocrity beyond that. And of course, Aurelio Rodriguez, that's a 222 card. It's 217. And worse, Ed Brinkman, that 1E8 shortstop who got most valuable player votes in 1972 in the American League because he was on the Tiger team that won that division. Finished top 10 in MVP votes with a 203 batting average that season. With that card, he hit 177. So it's just like, be perfect, be lucky, and try and steal a bunch of wins. Otherwise, this is not happening. The pitching staff, Woody Fryman was moved into the bullpen. That was not a smart move. He pitched fantastically, but he should have stayed in the rotation where he would have been more valuable. Jim Rowland was the lefty in the bullpen who did okay. Eventually, Blue Moon Odom was so ordinary. We flipped him and Fryman so Fryman could have meaningful starts in the tournament. Odom got 1 save, and of course, Odom's on the mound as Vegas's season ends, as he gives up a 3-run homer to Andy Costco of Colorado. So that's a little disastrous for him. Ken Brett's a solid starter. Ray Culp is getting older. Jim Lonborg, talk about bad luck. He was okay. A 3.56 ERA and a 1.42 WHIP, but he was 1-7. Very bizarre stats. And now it's time to really take a look at this Las Vegas team. This is a team that had, I call these expansion teams, the fictional ones, teams 31 and 32, Portland and Las Vegas in either order. No real way to distinguish them. But they usually just get the leftover guys, and it's almost impossible. You're not going to get, if you don't get a Hall of Famer or All-Stars, it's just almost impossible. The good news about playing in this division is one of these 4 teams goes to the playoffs every year. That was sort of one of the built-in things I wanted to do so that they can something to compete for. So we're going to pull out the 71 guys and see if this team's going to get a little bit better or a little bit worse next year. Okay, so we have, here's your 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and these are the 871 cards that are going to be going away. And we'll evaluate these at the end. So this is how we're going to build this club moving forward. The balance is 8 and 4. 8 hitters and 4 pitchers. So you're going to see some nice defensive players in this list. Let's see here. Oh, we got a catching platoon here. catching platoon there. We have a second baseman, a third baseman, and a shortstop, Ed Brinkman. And again, 2 of these 3 guys are fantastic defensively. And then we have 3 outfielders, and really they're pretty good. Beniquez is a 3 in center, but he has to move to left because Ken Berry is a 1-0 with a 0 arm, and Mike Anderson's a 1-7. So pretty much what we played with during the year. The pitchers coming back, well, I would say you have no bullpen whatsoever, but you've got a great pitching staff, starting rotation here. Lonborg and Brett can pitch on 3 days rest. Fryman and Odom cannot. So yeah, this is fine here. If you figure that Lonborg pitched in bad luck this year, maybe he'll pitch with better luck next year. This is a 72 card with the Brewers. Lonborg had, of course, the great 66 or 7, whatever, with Boston, and then after that, a bunch of nothing until this year. And then he goes to the Phillies and has a couple more nice years. Brett's a nice pitcher from the Phillies as well. Woody Fryman was from the Tigers in 72. And Odom, of course, got a World Series ring with the A's. So those are 4 very good starting pitchers. That's a great place to start. I would say I wouldn't even worry about the bullpen yet. I would still add whatever you can to this offense, and then just cross your fingers on a bullpen. You know, like you got those starters, just Billy Martin it. Have them do what Billy Martin did to the 1980 Oakland A's and never use the bullpen. So that's it for this. We're going to take a look at the 8 Las Vegas players from 1971. All right, baseball fans, we're going to take a look at these Las Vegas players, the 8 players from this roster who need to figure out if they're going to be kept for next year, put on waivers, or retired. We begin with Tommy Davis. You know, he had a nice long career and also known to travel. And travelers are always welcome on expansion teams. Guys who kick around baseball and are playing all over. These are all the jerseys he wore in his long career. But maybe he'll just stay in Las Vegas here. No reason to leave Las Vegas. They love him here. They need some stability. He still has some nice years left. The 71 card, this one, 324 with Oakland. And he would not stay with the Oakland A's for the dynasty. He ends up going to, in 72, first the Cubs, then Baltimore. And so the years to consider moving forward are going to be 72 to 75. He's got a 306 year for Baltimore in 73. 72 is pretty mediocre. Really, he's okay. He's definitely good enough to be a DH, or, I mean, this is a bad Las Vegas team, so they need any 300 hitter they can get. So yeah, and of course he can play some utility role. He's not very good defensively, of course, but he could play some utility role there. So Tommy Davis is going to be a keeper for now. If they can find 4 guys better than him, I'm all for it, but I don't think they will. Next player, Ted Kubiak, utility infielder. I think he was also a member of the 72 A's, who would have gotten a ring. He's got an Oakland hat there. So this 71 card was pretty cool because it had some power. He had 4 home runs, which is pretty cool. They gave him power with the 71 card. Actually, what they did was they didn't even print the Milwaukee card. They just printed this St. Louis card as a part-time player with 1 homer. But that's the card they made. So in 72, he's with the A's in 3, and 74. I think he might have 3 World Series rings. Good for him. Yeah, this is the perfect guy to put on waivers. I mean, if you want to bring him back, I mean, you could. Chances are no one's going to take him away from you. One of those handshake agreements. Hey, Ted, if nobody claims you in the draft, we'll bring you back. He does have a card in 72 because he had 234 plate appearances. We could verify that. His 72 season was split between Texas and Oakland. We can go to the Super D site here, the roster page, Gary's roster page, and see, just to make sure that a card exists for him with either Oakland or Texas in 72. And there it is, Kubiak with Oakland. That means you can get waivers. To get waivers, you have to have a card printed by Strat-O-Matic in the next season, which is 1972. Because I need 64 of those guys on waivers so that there's a pool of players to pick from. And the only way you get a pull is if Strat-O-Matic makes the card. So a lot of the guys who have like 80 at-bats or so, I always double check, make sure a card exists before I put him on waivers. If he doesn't have a card, he goes to retirement. Next guy is Jim Nettles, and he had a really, really nice series with the dramatic home runs. Unfortunately, his season only lasted one more game. Here he is, Jim Nettles, a lefty left fielder. Really hits a nice pop in 71 with the 6 home runs and 168 bats. Look at the slugging, almost 400. So it wasn't a bad gig. He's good rangy, he was a 2. He had power versus lefties and righties. Made it a very workable card in an otherwise statistically not impressive performance, but it was workable at age 24. However, you see he's still kicking around. He also can get waivers in 72. 268 plate appearances for the Twins. We got the Twins right here. And there he is in the outfield. So for this young team, we'll make him on waivers. And the next hitter is Wes Parker. I think he's got one more year left. We have to double check on this. No room at the end in LA because they said, hey, we gotta move Garvey to first base and let him be your Gold Glove first baseman. So that meant that Wes Parker's time in LA was over. But in 72, at age 32, he plays almost a full season with a 279 average, and he wins his 6th consecutive Gold Glove. No brainer, you got to have that for this team that prides defense. Wes Parker. All right, hopefully we can find a couple keepers in this pitching chart here. We begin with Ray Culp, and I think he might be running out of juice here. He's right at the end here. He's got 2 more years. Ray Culp. So 71 card was pretty good. 125 whip. 71 card. 72 card and 73 card may not even exist. About the same statistically each year. Kind of blah. There's going to be a 72 Red Sox card. We can double check that. For Ray Culp. There he is. Let's put him on waivers now because we know he's a starting pitcher and we have the 4 guys we think are going to be the starting pitchers for this team. Next guy is Roger Hambright, and I think he was a one-shot wonder. Let's go see. It's always great when these guys pop up in Strat-O-Matic. There it is. I love it when these guys pop up in Strat-O-Matic. Roger Hambright, because it's a useful card, and, it got to be used more than he actually played in his career, I'm guessing. So that little cup of coffee he had with the Yankees in 71 at age 22, 26 2/3 innings, I'm almost convinced that he pitched more in my carryover league than he did in Major League Baseball. A 1.20 whip, did surrender a ton of home runs, 5 in 26 innings, 4.39 ERA. He was decent, but now he has to be retired. There's your little Roger Hambright trivia for you. Got to play in Strat-O-Matic for a bunch of years for me. Next guy, Jim York. And this guy, we are hoping he's got one more good year left in him with Houston. This 71 card, he really slammed the door on righties, not so much against lefties. There it is. 5 and 5, 289 in 93 innings, a 122 whip. You can consider all 4 of these years. And you know what? A 74 or 75 York. Oh boy, those whips are kind of high, aren't they? Alright, question number 1 is, does he get waivers in 72 with Houston? Let's look at that first. Houston, do you have Jim York? Not in the regular part. How about in the extra players? Yeah, there he is. So, he exists. We can make him on waivers. Because basically, you should be able to find somebody better than that. And the last guy is Jim Rowland. He played a big role on the Oakland staff. 62 to 72. Now, did he get himself a World Series ring? Oh, I don't know. He may not have. Look at that. So in the year of 72, he only had 2 innings with the A's, 25 with the Yankees, and 3 with the Rangers. Couple problems here that I see. First of all, even if his card exists, it's a 5.28 ERA and a 1.85. You know, but waivers would still be better than retirement. So I gotta check Oakland, the Yankees, and Texas for Roland here. My guess is Strat-O-Matic would not have printed that. Let's go check it out. So the Yankees, Oakland, and Texas. Well, alphabetically, they're all right here. And Roland is not there, or there, or there. And we'll look at the extra guys. The Yankees, there's no Roland there. Oakland, there's no Roland there. And Texas, no. Yeah, that's just a small sample size, and for good reason. That you don't want this card anyway. You'd go with the Yankee card with a 5.04 ERA or the 1.72. That wouldn't be that bad. They should have given him the Yankees card. But as you can see, the Yankees had Fred Bean, Jerry Kennedy, Ron Swoboda, and R. Torres. And the Yankee pitching staff had enough. They had Sparky Lyle, Mike Kekich as lefties in this team with Fritz Peterson. So he has to be retired. Jim Roland. 2, 4, and 2. So this team has to get on the phones, and they might have to deal one of their starting pitchers to get some value in the off season, because they're only going to keep 2 guys. You have to keep 4. So they got to find some guys to keep. Excesses in other organizations, if that exists. And as trade bait, they're going to have to trade one of their guys they have. We talked about Lomborg, Brett, Woody Fryman, and Blue Moon Odom. They're all good pitchers. You might want to deal one of them and get a couple players for them. Or maybe you trade Juan Benitez because you got Ken Berry to play center field, because Benitez is a nice little player. You don't really necessarily need him. And if you want to break up your great third base, shortstop defense, maybe the Detroit Tigers come calling for Ed Brinkman and Aurelio Rodriguez. They might. The Tigers decided to go a different direction on the left side of the infield because they thought, like I thought, that that's just not enough offense for the Tigers, regardless of how slick fielders Ed Brinkman and A-Rod are. So they tried to bump up their offense a little bit, and it's worked for the Tigers. They are in first place in their division. That's a tale of another team. We've eliminated, I think, 6 teams here? We have 48. We've eliminated 6 teams. We have 23 guys kept, 16 to be waived, only 9 retirements. That's good to have a low retirement number. We want to keep that retirement number under 64, and right now we're doing a good job of that. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you next time.